thank you all for coming. We're real excited to be in person, as Amanda said, and it's the 46th annual Governor's Conference on Energy and Environment, and we have a whole lot of new energy issues, of new energy money, of new environmental issues, maybe not so much money to deal with some of them, but we're hopeful. So we want to share a lot of very useful information for you to help you with your professional careers, and hopefully you'll glean a lot from this conference. We're going to hear a personal message from Governor Beshear by video. His schedule would not permit him to be here this morning, but he's prepared some remarks for us, so I'm looking forward to that. But you know, a lot has changed since the last time we were all able to be together in one room. And so we're excited to share what we've accomplished since then. We're excited to share what Team Kentucky is doing to make a better future for all Kentuckians. This morning, you're going to hear a lot from cabinet leadership about issues that we grapple with every day. Barry Mayfield, the Executive Director of the Office of Legislative and Governmental Affairs, is going to moderate a panel that will feature our Department of Natural Resources Commissioner Gordon Sloan, our Department of Environmental Protection Commissioner Tony Hatton, Kenya Stump, who most of you know, our Executive Director of our Office of Energy Policy, and they'll all share their insights from emerging issues and contaminants to infrastructure funding, which I know is a very important subject for everybody, and renewables. We have a Meet the Funders panel, and I'm looking forward to this one, which will feature Torrin Collins, who's a specialist for Appalachia for the U.S. Department of Energy, Brian Gross, EPA Region 4 with the Brownfield Program, Sandy Williams, the Executive Director of the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, James Cable, who's with our own Division of Abandoned Mine Lands, and Dennis Hatfield, the Director of our Division of Oil and Gas. All of these people are very, very involved in making decisions about how the state's going to spend the almost $7 billion coming into the state from the bipartisan infrastructure law. You're also going to hear another presentation I'm looking forward to from our EPA Region 4 Administrator, Mr. Daniel Blackman. Then we have a treat for you today at lunch. Lane Dilg is joining us. She's a senior advisor for the Office of the Undersecretary for Infrastructure in the Department of Energy. And after lunch, we'll hear from a very entertaining speaker, our new Economic Development Secretary, Jeff Knoll. We're going to hear from Dave Duttlinger, who's the Executive Director of the Bluegrass Area Development Districts. Kathy Walker, a real ball of energy and somebody that I love to work with, who's the founder and CEO of the East Kentucky Advanced Manufacturing Institute, otherwise known as ECAMI. Brad Clark, the founder and CEO of Latent Talent Accelerator, and Jordan Solomon, President and CEO of EcoStrat, and they're hosting your hospitality, so be nice to him. And he's also the chairman of BDO Zone Initiative. They're going to go over the resources and the tools that are available to address infrastructure, workforce development, and energy resiliency. We're also, I hope, going to have a very robust discussion of how we work with nonprofits and other organizations to get projects rolling across the Commonwealth. I'm not sure who's going to lead off that panel right now. We've had an unfortunate illness strike one of our panelists, but I think we have Amy Soner, Executive Director of Bluegrass Green Source, Sheila Medina, who is Assistant Director for Policy and Engagement at UK's Center for Applied Energy Research, one of our very valued partners, Carrie Ray, the Energy Program Coordinator of Mountain Association, and our own Sonny Carr, the Executive Director of our Kentucky Nature Preserves Office. Then today's going to wrap up with a deeper dive into the environmental challenges we've faced in the last 2 years. During that time, we've had six federally declared disasters. culminating in the flooding this past July in eastern Kentucky. So we'll hear from Carrie Johnson, the director of our Division of Water, Jason Unrein, the director of the Kentucky Water Resources Research Institute, Scott Young, who's a relatively new director for Kentucky Rural Water Association, and John Dorman, vice president and emergency and risk management for AECOM Engineering. We unofficially kicked off the conference yesterday with a grant writing workshop, and this skill set is going to be very, very valuable as small communities or businesses or even our cabinet apply for these federal funds that are coming down. And I want to thank Amanda Lefevre for conducting that workshop. She's quite skilled in grant writing, and we're happy to have her. So thank you, Amanda, for doing that. There's so much happening in Kentucky in the fields of energy and environment that I could share, but I think we need to focus on a couple of things. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which I call the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and specifically what that's going to mean to our Kentucky communities. And we have $74 million relatively soon coming into the cabinet for our abandoned mine lands program, and a $25 million program in our division of oil and gas to cap orphan gas wells. For Kentucky, the bipartisan infrastructure law provides about $6.8 million in funding, billion dollars. Did I say million? It's billion. In funding that will give the Commonwealth an opportunity to make meaningful strides in rebuilding infrastructure and energy development and advancements, and creating an estimated 700,000 jobs over the next decade. There are 49 infrastructure programs that have been targeted for funding over the next 5 fiscal years. That number is continuing to grow as we see new programs announced periodically. As of today, for fiscal year 2022 alone, Kentucky's program allocations exceed $1.5 billion. The funding is channeled through 3 main funding streams. One is transportation, and you're going to hear from Cabinet Secretary Jim Gray tomorrow about transportation. The second is broadband access, and I'm sure you've read a lot about that. And the third is energy and environment, which includes climate change and resiliency funding. You can find information about these programs on our website. EEC has Building a Better Kentucky website, and we are trying to provide timely information both on currently available programs as well as expected timeframes for other programs. These funding opportunities are sorted into 6 categories on our website. We have energy efficiency and resiliency, forestry and safety, reclamation, remediation, prevention, renewable energy, waste management, and water. You'll also find links there if you're with a local government to state and federal resources, as well as resources that your local government can use to navigate these programs. We're tracking about 100 funding opportunities that communities and local governments can apply for directly without having to go through the state program. And again, that's where that grant writing workshop comes into play. From clean energy and power to public transportation to resiliency and more, there's about $206 billion over the next 5 years for eligible projects that communities and local governments can apply for. For the cabinet, our largest funding stream is easily for abandoned mine lands. Kentucky is slated to receive $74 million each program year for the next 15 years. That means a little over $1 billion devoted to that program. These funds will also be used as part of AML's waterline replacement program to help provide potable water to citizens whose water supplies have been adversely impacted by historic mining. The Infrastructure Act also reauthorized the AML program through the year 2034. Kentucky currently receives an estimated $9 million in fee-based funding for the reclamation of historic mining hazards such as subsidence, slides, open portals, refuse piles, and mine seam fires. Last year, before the funding, the Division of AML completed 70 projects at a cost of almost $9 million. This new funding is going to enable us to complete nearly 300 projects a year, which is an enormous expansion of that program. I'd like to also give a quick nod to the division's AMLR program. In 7 years, our AML division has vetted over 400 projects. 75 of them have been selected for $162 million in federal funding. And these projects have already produced about 150 jobs in Eastern Kentucky through industrial development, workforce training, infrastructure improvements, tourism, agritech, and community wellness. So, pat on the back for AML. When they're all completed, we expect that as many as 2,300 jobs could be created. This year we had 86 applications. Governor Beshear is prepared to announce the selections at the SOAR Summit, which begins Wednesday in Pikeville. The bipartisan infrastructure law also provides this first year about $25 million for us to plug orphaned oil and gas wells. We've identified more than 15,000 wells across the Commonwealth, and there could be more. The wells can be anything from being a nuisance to actually being an environmental hazard, depending on the property's geology or the wellhead's condition. 7 weeks ago, as part of his Better Kentucky plan, Governor Beshear announced the $25 million grant from the U.S. Department of the Interior to plug these orphan and gas wells. And we are first addressing areas of the greatest need, the sites with the most impact on our citizens' health or our environmental or our natural resources, The first 10 contracts worth $5.3 million were awarded last month to multiple contractors. Let's see, there's a lot of counties: Christian, Cumberland, Allen, Davies, Henderson, Lee, McLean, Ohio, Pulaski, and Webster counties. Christian County has seen the first repair work to begin, the plugging work on 25 wells. Bid openings for the next 159 wells have taken place, and once those are awarded, then that construction work will begin. And we have the potential to cap many, many more wells through this 5-year program. The division could receive up to $79 million in the program's next phase. And while the funds are not enough to address all of the problem sites, it will allow us to make great headway in restoring properties and improving our natural resources. The bipartisan infrastructure law has many other funding sources that we are tracking. There's $750 million for small businesses that undertake eligible projects in communities that have been impacted by closures of coal mines or coal-fired power plants. Qualifying energy projects could include those powered by solar, wind, hydrothermal, geothermal, or hydroelectric energy. Funding will encourage the production of fuel cells and microturbines, energy storage systems, and the modernization of electric grid equipment. Our Office of Energy Policy, Kenya Stump Shop, will receive about $8 million for projects that improve energy conservation, resiliency, and reliability, and there's an opportunity for those state energy offices to apply for an additional $40 million in funding. In all of the discussions today, you're going to hear a common thread, and that's the need for resiliency. The climate-induced challenges that we've experienced here in Kentucky have clearly shown that resiliency is an area we really need to focus on. The catastrophic flooding in eastern Kentucky, the water emergency in Marion, Kentucky, The tornadoes in western Kentucky have shown us all that we need to rethink ways to rely on our drinking and wastewater systems during an emergency. We need to rethink ways to build stronger communities that don't flood when the creeks rise. Less than 3 months ago, more than 40 people died. Hundreds lost their homes and businesses when 15 inches of rainfall occurred over a 5-day period. You know, a lot of my staff and I myself have seen the devastation that flooding caused. It's barely comprehensible. It is so devastating. We traveled, 30 miles, John Lyons, down Troublesome Creek, I think, a place where my mother's family grew up and a place I had visited a lot during my youth, and it's unrecognizable. The state and its partners have undertaken a massive relief effort there. Our partners have restored power and light and water to these affected communities. Roads have been cleared and hazardous materials have been located and will be disposed of. We're working with FEMA to provide temporary housing and working with our communities to identify properties suitable for permanent housing outside of the floodplain. Much more is needed, though, especially as winter approaches. So here's where I make my impassioned plea for you to donate to the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund. If you have not done so, please do so. You cannot imagine the devastation, and as we are approaching winter, we need to find very quick solutions for these communities and these families. All donations to the fund are tax deductible. You probably already know that, and you can easily donate online. So I ask you, if you haven't given, please do so. I hope that over this next 2-day period you find this conference thought-provoking, and that opens up a lot of possibilities for you about what we can do and what we can achieve, especially when we view our partnerships in very new and different ways. So please visit our exhibitors outside and take a look at the new all-electric Ford Lightning F-150 pickup truck on display. I am told if you go out the store and hang a left, it's out back. And if you have not seen that truck, it's just amazing. You need to get out there and take a look at it. And think about the students who have made the small electric vehicles outside, and there are new generation of electrical engineers who are going to be working for these companies. But we've got everything from a go-kart that is powered by electricity to the F-150. So you all need to take a look at this. This is the future. I know Amanda's already thanked some people, but I do want to thank our sponsors, the break sponsors, Kentucky Touchstone Energy Cooperatives. I love our RECCs, and we cannot restore power as quickly as we've been able to do in Kentucky after these events like our tornadoes in western Kentucky or the flooding in eastern Kentucky without their help and those mutual aid agreements. So a big shout out to them. We have Cardinal sponsors, Community Action of Kentucky, our Kentucky Association for Environmental Education, the Kentucky Climate Center, the NEED Project, the UK Center for Applied Energy Research, and the U of L Conn Center for Renewable Energy Research. And thank you again to EcoStrat for libations and our hospitality event this afternoon.